Okay, welcome everyone. We are going to continue on with our business meeting. Today's Tuesday, July 30th, 2019. We had an executive session that started at 5 o'clock. We met with our attorney and then we met with a representative from AFH, which was item number 2. Item number 3, we had a executive session slated to continue legal advice on power supply matters. We did not have that executive session as our executive session with our attorney and AFH ran over. And the board at this time has nothing to report to the public on those meetings. We hope to have something maybe in September. But right now we have nothing to report. So moving on to item number, no, we have nothing. Number 4, we have nothing to do. So number 5, board review of the financials. Matt.
I'm sorry, I don't know your name, miss.
My name is Linda Breary.
B-R-E-A-R-Y?
B-R-E-A-R.
Did you mention the elections?
Linda
Sorry, thank you.
So you have no information at all regarding your meetings with American First Hydro?
No. The board has not had a chance to discuss the information we received today. We ran over with AFH. We could have continued our executive session as a board to discuss that information, but we chose to end it there and continue on with our regular meeting. So we'll come back. So we received information from AFH, but we have not had a chance to discuss it.
All right, you'll post when you will have information available to the public?
We will not have a meeting in August. Our next business meeting will be in September.
Okay.
So that would be the soonest that anything would come out.
All right, thank you.
Just to clarify, they also can't make any decisions until so it'll be a publicly announced agenda item before any actual decisions are made. So it'll be an open session agenda item to discuss the process to the public and to either, explain why a deal was made or explain why a deal was not made. So nothing is, we can't make a decision in the private eye. We're not allowed to do that.
Okay.
Just to clarify that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Yeah, same here.
Matt, before you go into your report, I just need to, item number 1 was called to order and we had election of officers. The board elected the slate, which will continue for the next year, so I'll remain the president for the next year. Bob Emmons will stay vice president, and Dan will stay the clerk. With that, Matt, it's all you.
I don't have many notes for June. The revenues were pretty flat with what we expected, and we had a slight increase in expenses, mainly due to the work that we're doing over there on the Ross Road. So if you've driven by, you can see there's a lot of activity going on over there. And also we had a little increase above budget for the legal expenses related to the hydros. So I didn't have many notes this time.
Does anyone have any questions of Matt at this time on the finances that he's provided?
Just one.
Yep.
Could you just give us, again, a general overview of why our delinquent accounts are consistently, month after month, above prior year, both on a percentage basis and just in absolute dollars? You've explained this before, but it would be helpful, because I thought I understood that there were some timing issues related to previous explanations, but it does seem to be continuing. So I'm just curious about how you see that.
Our past dues have been decreasing since March, but they are up when you look at the prior year. Todd and I have been having discussions about ways that we think we can affect that. There is no one reason why they're up. We've talked in the past about how a big customer might affect that from month to month. but that's not the case now. And so it is truly a case of just, more customers owing us more than they did last year. The sales they're up a little bit, but not enough that it would equate to that increase in the passengers. So Todd and I will have a plan for you in September about how we think we can impact this and get those numbers down.
Does it seem to be the same names that are consistently there?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it-
very consistent. The customers that are late are
Habitually.
routinely late.
And even though with the disconnects that we're able to do right now, that doesn't change it, because you would, like Jay said, you would expect those to go down, but they're going the opposite direction.
Well, I would just point out that for this month, for this year, they have decreased each month. So, but part of that is the ability to disconnect. So we're prohibited from November 16th to April 14th from doing that. But it's that same way every year. So you can nicely make a comparison to say, well, if it's the same business practice year over year, then it's a legitimate question to say, why are we higher than last year?
And the definition of delinquent accounts includes accounts that are 29 days aged,
29 days.
all the
and
way up
older
to 91 plus.
in infinity.
So they're not really delinquent at 29 days, right? They're
The definition of delinquent is, yes,
20.
but
But I mean, we have 91,000 that's in the 29 to 60. So it's not delinquent sounds really bad.
right.
It's bad to be over 30, but.
So you'll consistently see that the youngest bills are the highest and the oldest bills.
Are the ones.
Right, because as they age through the system, as we try to collect them, sometimes we can't collect them.
But the youngest bills were $25,000 over last year at this time.
Right.
And overall for the total, we're $40,000 over last year in delinquents.
And yet, on the 91 plus, we're lower.
Right.
In other words, we're not letting them go to we're not letting them go to uncollectible. As
Well,
much.
I would love to sit here and say that's the absolute truth, Jay.
But it's not.
It's not, just because if you remember, we wrote off
was looking
this
for some silver
large,
lining.
like,
We understand it's a challenge and it's,
I can
Yeah.
give you a philosophical. What I'm seeing with these customers is we have a struggling working class in this community that is struggling to survive, and they're not immune to technology. So they're bringing on, they have a job, they can afford to buy air conditioners now, so they buy the air conditioners. And the customers that we deal with, electricity isn't their priority. It's not their first. If we got $100, they're not coming in here to pay $100. They might go get something else. And so those are the customers that I see. The names that are repeated over and over again. It is the people who are just barely making ends meet now, and they're trying to advance themselves without realizing, I think, that their energy. I have a few of these customers that I've become pretty close with because they come in regularly. They ask for me because I'm just personable and I want to talk to them and see how they're doing. And they'll tell me, I've got a raise in the job and I bought a car and well, what does that do for your electric bill? Well, I'm here again and you're threatening to disconnect me. We can't shift the priorities, but we can, the root cause is that there are people struggling, and I think it's becoming more prevalent. I don't know if the demographics are changing or what it is. I haven't been long enough to figure that out, but I do know that people are advancing themselves, and there is a core of customers that electricity isn't their first, the first thing they worry about. And
are you able to break down what the percentages as far as what is rental property, renters that are delinquent versus owners of property?
That'd be a high percentage, Matt, wouldn't it?
We can do that.
Because I would think that based on what you're saying, that it sounds like it's more renters that are struggling to pay their rent and their living expenses and then the utilities on top of that.
And then we also may have situations, you know, the 29 to 60 days, we're not turning them off yet, but we have caregivers in the community, marijuana caregivers. We know who they are because they're the only one in that neighborhood who has a $2,500 bill, and they pay it cash. So if they come in 3 days late, they're over that 29. We don't consider them late yet, but according to, so maybe we not only need to, maybe we need to fine tune where that day is to see what it, if you go to 45 and stop there, how much does that impact it? And kind of eliminate, because they're technically not delinquent. So we've got work to do on, you know, figuring out, there's got to be a sweet spot where that problem is occurring that we just don't, it's just the same people. It's tough.
But your delinquent would be from the date that it was due
Right.
to when the disconnect's gonna happen.
That is correct. And, but they can still be delinquent and not in danger of disconnect.
Correct.
So
Because what
some
is it,
people,
another 30 days after the,
so some people, I don't know if they're just,
they could be in that 60 day before they get disconnected. All right, we could probably go over and over this, but we'll wait to see what you guys bring back for your ideas. Is there any other questions on the financials?
Yeah, on the solars, the generated solar for the month of June, is that up to what we would estimate?
Well, it was, 492,000 kilowatt hours, so that's pretty consistent with, when it first ramped up, it generated 428, 421, 492. So it seems to be following the plan, if you will.
Thank you.
Ross Road project update?
trees have all been trimmed. They are framing up. Utility Services is framing poles, transferring some items on poles, and making ready for the pulling in. We're looking at, they were doing it in phases, where they were going to pull in certain phases. There may be a change to that. They may frame all the poles and have everything ready so they can do all the pulling at once. So we're about 5 weeks into the project. We've got about 7 or 8 weeks left, and they're plugging along. They're doing a really good job. Traffic control are doing a great job with that. We haven't gotten many complaints, and people are noticing that it's a nice job, and it'll be nice when it's done. So it's a little inconvenient because it's June and it's Maine and it's Ross Road, but we haven't been getting a whole lot of complaints about traffic. So Matt, you had a total for me earlier, and material cost
202,000
is the total
so far.
So they're moving along. If you have any more specific questions, I'm happy to meet you out there. Or
When's completion?
We were looking at a 12-week working timeline, so it was end of June, July, August, September, mid-September.
Any news coverage on this?
I don't think so, unless it's an
Good idea,
accident.
let people know what's going on.
Yeah, I can
Will there be tests on it,
tests.
on the breakers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Before anything's live, everything will be tested, everything will be
It
operational.
tested you're providing power from one section, and then testing providing power from another section.
Yep, we've done all the phasing, we've checked, all of that's been done, and then before they go live, everything will be double checked, make sure all the breakers work, make sure all the new reclosers are set right, make sure all of that before.
And will
they
that
go
be
live.
done in one day, I guess, and you can let me
I
know
can let you know.
whatever?
Absolutely, when they get,
site.
I can let you know when they start pulling, just because that's an interesting process to see, and then
Right.
I'll also let you know when they're ready to go live, so you can come in and see what's happening.
Thank you.
So you contacted,
I'm sorry?
you contacted people?
Yes, I will, yeah, certainly.
S&P Global Rating update.
So we retained our rating this year. We're triple B plus, positive out, stable outlook. Let me pull this sheet out here. One of the issues we're going to address this year is Matt and I have a capital improvement plan to bring to the board during the budgeting season. 5-year plan that will allay some of the concerns of Standard & Poor's. And then also I was surprised, I was kind of shocked, but they took negatively to the talk of Nextera no longer providing us our power. They seem to put a lot of credence in a large company serving our load and the stability of that organization, but I'll try to address that later on this evening. But we are hopeful that next year, this time, we'll finally get the increase that we deserve, or if not the increase, we won't have annual reviews. It's a different criteria this year. They changed some of the criteria, and you always get a different rater. So I guess it all depends on what the rater wants to hear. We answer the questions honestly. Matt and I, how many times do we get data requests? We send them the information. We had an hour-long conference call, and they seem to be happy with what's going on. The days of cash didn't seem to make as big as a dent as we thought it would.
That was disappointing.
It was very disappointing, but
They
we'll
spoke
continue
in
to plug it
favor.
along.
They were appreciative to see that it was going in the right trend.
Yeah.
So-
There's also
But it didn't weigh as much as you thought it would.
exactly. There's a disconnect, no matter if they want to admit it or not, between a for-profit and a not-for-profit. And we spend a fair amount of time explaining that certain revenues, like energy, that doesn't touch our bottom line. It doesn't mean anything to us. We don't bank on it. And you spend a lot of time just kind of reminding them that we're not an investor and this is how we operate. But we'll keep plugging away and doing what we're doing, and we learn from every experience they give us, and we'll continue to, eventually that rating will go up.
Right, overall, I think the report was good. I mean, I thought you guys did a great job getting to where we are. They recognized the work that's been completed over the last 3 years and the progress that we've made. One with our debt and one with our rate, that the board wasn't afraid to move on rates if we needed to move on rates, which we did do. We talked about the money and how our cash flow has been increasing. The one thing that, as you mentioned, that they took as a negative was the capital plan, that we didn't have that. We haven't had that for some time, and that is on our radar, and that will be completed this year. So hopefully that will help us out with the next one. And then I was surprised on, as well, how much locking in our next rate is to them, that although we have a locked-in rate right now, that it's going to be expiring in the next 15 months, and they took that as a negative. That if we turned around and locked that in, that they would then look positively on that. And that they were looking at minimum of 5 years. So for that to be locked in. So they obviously like long-term security.
Yep, absolutely.
They also highlighted our debt and how our debt's reducing.
We had a lot of strengths
Yeah.
and adequates.
Yeah.
We didn't have any real negatives.
No, we had a lot of strongs, a lot of some extremely strongs.
Just liquidity and reserves were vulnerable.
Yep.
Right.
Everything else was pretty good.
Yeah.
And every time we do ask them, what would we need to do to improve the rating? And they never said.
It's a guessing game.
I think they imply we're
to
doing
tell
it.
us what we need to do.
But I think Todd, you mentioned too when we talked that we're moving in the right direction as a district.
Yep.
That we're getting ourselves into a good, stable financial position, and that with the amount of projects that we have or that we're looking at, that it's very promising that we will be able to do a lot of these projects without having to go back out to bond. And so if we don't have to bond, we're able to pay for these projects in-house. that saves us all the way around, and then the rating isn't as important to us because it's not going to affect our rating.
But ironically, then your rating goes through the roof because suddenly you don't need the bonding anymore and they're
Right.
all wanting to give you
Then they want to give you money.
Exactly.
But, so,
Well, our bonds will be paid off soon.
yeah. Okay, any questions on the S&P or comments? Everyone's good? Thank you, guys. Item 8, board to authorize the GM to sell a 2002 GMC meter truck with a minimum bid of $1,500. Todd?
The entire vehicle plan is coming, as we said, with the budget season, but the one low hanging fruit was the meter truck that's falling apart and badly in disrepair, and the Highlander that's been sitting around doing nothing. And so one day I did a test. I had talked to Elaine about this a while ago and said, what about the Highlander? Why don't you try that out? Oh no, I couldn't see in it. I couldn't. She took it out for a ride and loved it. So it's a vehicle that's been sitting idle. It's got very low mileage. It's in really good shape. I would anticipate that vehicle will exceed Wheeze's time here. I can tell you that right now. We lettered it up. It's light radio, and starting as soon as she gets it back from having the radios put in, that will be the meter truck. It's hybrid electric. It gets fairly good economy, or it gets better gas mileage in town than it does on the highway. So I ask $1,500 for the meter truck because to say any less than that is giving it away, but it's not worth a lot more than that. So if the board would authorize that, we'll have one less vehicle to worry about, and that will help me along my way on the remainder of the plan.
How many miles?
That one's got 152,000, I think, and it's starting to rust.
17 years old.
Hinges are coming off the doors. and-
1,500 for
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, man.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion with a second to authorize the GM to sell the GMC meter truck for a minimum of $1,500. All those in favor? Unanimous.
You heard it here first, Mr. Painterman. I should add it, because we're on record, that we do maintain that vehicle very well. I can put it down, but
We
all of
maintain
our
all our
vehicles
vehicles.
are very well used.
Except for the door.
Except for the door hinges. That's what we called it. We said, we're not replacing the hinges on the door.
All right, general manager report, 2019 KLPD goals.
I think we're doing pretty well. I'll go through the list in no particular order, the substation and the load shifting. I'd say Ross Road will be 100% complete by the end of the year. I know that for a fact. I'd say we're about 30% complete on that project right now. Mill Street Reconductor, we're still working out bugs on that one. There are some circuit issues out of West K that may necessitate an overbuild, but we're assessing that. Kevin and I, Chuck, we're all putting our heads together to see the best way to do that project and when it might be in our best interest to do it. Circuit consolidation continues to occur. When the crew has time, they're pulling taps off of one circuit to add it to a different circuit so we can eliminate the number of feeds that come out of Water Street. Kevin and I are very aggressively approaching this substation potential refurbish as opposed to a complete rebuild. It will save us a considerable amount of money. We've spoken to CMP, who has done several of these. We're going to speak to the engineer to see where the pitfalls that we might miss are, where the big costs that we might miss are. And I did speak to Duffy today. I did, in a previous meeting, said it would potentially take a 5 or 6 hour outage to do some of the work that we want to do. The money that we can save by not reconstructing an entire substation will allow us to rent a mini sub for an 8-hour day, bring it in, transfer the power to that mini sub, fix our substation, nobody loses power, then we put it back online at our substation. More information will be coming in the budget process because we don't have hard numbers yet. We're still trying to get our minds around exactly what moving parts need to be replaced so that we can do this properly and not have to do it again, and to ensure that it will extend the life of the current substation to at least somewhere in the ballpark of a rebuild. CMP is doing this all over the state of Maine right now. They have circa 1950s, 1960s substations replacing porcelain, creating clearances within the existing footprint, and it's a fraction of the cost. So that will assist us in being able to move forward on a better chance of a debt-free kind of a situation if this project can come in at a fraction of the cost of a rebuild, and it will last us just as long. It's all about the resiliency and the ability to continue operating, and we need to do Yeah.
What cost are we looking at?
Well, substation ballpark was 1.5, 2.5 million.
Right.
This ballpark, 150,000, couple hundred thousand, so.
And the vehicle you have for supplying for power, instead of the
Temporary
substation,
generator.
could that be extended if you found a problem?
Absolutely.
As
Yep,
it goes?
Sunbelt Rentals, I've spoken to them, they rent subs that would handle our whole, and so they'll negotiate anything, we can tell them, we know we need 8 hours.
Right.
What's the contingency for another 8 hours? And
Right.
do it like that, they drop it off, they pick it up, we hook
Right.
it up. And the insurance covers anything that might go wrong with it.
And when are you looking at?
This, I don't know, we'll have better idea in the fall when we do the budget, we'll have a better idea of what it's gonna cost us so we can figure timeline. It could be, if it's as economical as we think, it could be as early as next year.
Would you want to do it in the winter? Definitely not in the summer.
No, I'd want to
Yeah,
probably
spring
do
and
it in the
fall,
shoulder
right?
month, yep, spring or fall.
It'd be nice to get it done this fall.
Yeah, it would be very nice. Any other questions?
afraid of the
Oh,
money,
I'm still
though.
going through here, sorry. Full requirement service contract, we do have the RFP, we're gonna discuss whether it'll be full requirements later on, but we are making progress on this, as well as there will continue to be the additional services of long-term planning. This is all still in mind. We'll discuss energy later on in the agenda, and it'll be up to the board to determine how we move forward after that. Vehicle replacement and capital plan, like I said, we are working on that now. Parking lot resurfacing, Mike Jordan's really busy right now, so that's kind of we missed each other a couple times right before he was getting ready to go crazy. And so now he'll be back in the fall, and we'll discuss, unless I catch him on a weekend. So he's a good barometer for that. He's a really great guy. He loves this district, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does it cheaper than anybody else on the planet would do it. But I need to talk to Mike to get his input, because that's what he does for a living. Former trustee Mike Jordan owns Pavement Treatment Incorporated out of Scarborough, a very large organization that does a lot of paving, and he'll be the consultant that I need to talk to, because our parking lot's falling apart and the drainage doesn't work. KLPD reserves, we're going to continue that. We're still working on increasing the bond rating. We've got it holding steady. We're trying to do what we can with the hydro assets. I know I could be doing more, but I've also got 75 other things going on, so we've got our ear to the hydros and trying to figure out that last one. We're upgrading assets for improved resiliency. We are, the Asplund is doing a phenomenal job, and I wish I had done it sooner, because
It's already paying dividends.
it
on
really
outages.
is. The outages aren't happening. And then with the critter guards and the standouts that we're changing from metal to fiberglass, we're noticing a difference in the outages. We're not having the same kind of outages, and we're not having as many. So it's saving us money in the long run with less overtime, but also our customers are happier, and I'm happier because I'm not getting calls that I have to come in here. We had an outage a couple weeks ago because it was too hot, but they were able to fix that, and it'll happen once a year. It was 96 degrees, and we're just fortunate it didn't happen on a Friday.
Right. And just to add on to that, on our conversation this morning, one piece that you had mentioned as well is our social media information and getting the information out when we do have the power outages.
Yes. Oh my God, that is making a huge. Okay, thank you very much, Duffy. Because it used to be you had an outage on a street. Let's say Storer Street was out. We'd get 100 calls. With what happens now is Kevin gets the call. If Kathleen's available, Kathleen posts it on the website, and then I come in and cover phones, and it's literally night and day. And we get about 50 to 100 additional, maybe 50 additional subscribers to our power outage e-alerts every time that there's an event. So it is just that, just being able to email people and say, we try to tell them, here's the outage. We can't usually tell them how long, but we'll give them a ballpark of the duration, and then we'll follow up with power has been restored to the area. And that's cut the calls down considerably.
So for the public, if they haven't signed up already for those e-alerts, please sign up so that when there is a power outage, you'll know about it right away or as soon as possible, and that you'll know when it's coming back on. It's saved tremendous amount of time on staff from having to answer hundreds of phone calls to let you know that, and it's cut way down on that. So
and when I have to come in, and it's been rare lately, but when I come in on an outage, Usually there's somebody else there answering phones as well, so I'll pull up the system, I'll know what's out, and if we haven't heard from, like, the Kennybunk Inn, that the last one we had where there were some sporadic outages because they couldn't get it to close in Weber Hill, there were sporadic outages, so I called the Kennybunk Inn and said, this is gonna be happening for another 15, 20 minutes till they figure out why it won't close in. I'll call those businesses just to save them the aggravation and say, hey, they know we're paying attention. If it's Corning, knock on wood, Corning doesn't go out, Northeast Coating, if we let them know before we even have an outage if we can. So we're trying to increase that communication, but the website has made a huge difference. Of course,
Do you do that with texting?
I've looked into this Nixel, there's some different programs out there. I haven't found one yet that kind of meets all of our needs because we're gonna have to do a push to get a lot more information from our customers because they have home phones, or if we get to a point where there's a reasonably priced product that I can find, then we can adapt that, and I think that will spread kind of like the email thing where people hear that, oh, I got a text, we'll get their cell phone numbers, which helps them track them down in the event we're looking for delinquent payments. So that's something I've looked at. I just haven't found a one size fits all for us.
Your last two items.
Yes, GIS, Ray's coming in again on next Monday to do some more training. It's going to be a very excellent asset for us once we learn how to use it all the way, because there's a lot of steps there. And then one of the duties was to foster collaboration with the town of Kennybunk regarding potential fiber optic services. We've had 4 or 5 meetings now. I'm on the committee with Blake Baldwin. There's a bunch of Kennybunk, and I'm the KLPD representative. I introduced them to GWI. GWI has actually morphed their plan into a municipal-centered kind of an operation, and we're getting a lot of information together right now. It's not up to me to make the decision. This connectivity committee reports out to the Board of Selectmen, I assume, and they may or may not make a recommendation, or they may just provide the information that we've gathered. But we're learning a lot on take rates. We met with Sanford. Sanford came in and went over their pitfalls, and so there's a lot that we've learned. There's a lot more to learn, and there's money that's being appropriated for these kind of projects that could benefit Kennybunk. So, there's no immediate results, but we're definitely making some headway in potentially getting fiber optics in the community more readily available.
Great.
Question?
Yes.
Going back to the full service requirements contract, I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure I understand. Are we currently working with a consultant in the development of the RFP, or are you guys doing this yourself?
We're working with the attorney with the development of the RFP,
Okay.
because I wanted an independent party. I didn't want a consultant giving me the information, and I didn't want a provider giving me the information. So that's completely independent of any consultant or vendor.
Corning discussions?
There are no, I'm still, Jesus. There's been no further discussions. Corning is deliberating. It sounded like they were not interested in the worst case scenario that we thought, where they're just going to say we'll make it and tough crap. I think they have a need to, corporate-wide, they have a need to source more renewables, and they're willing to work with us in several different ways to get to that end game. So they're aware that the board's not meeting again until September, and so I think the consultant they're working with is taking the time to try to, I said, send us a proposal. The board had an open ear. They didn't say don't do it, send us a proposal. So they've asked me some refining questions, and I think they'll come back in September with a conversation about whether they're going to move in this direction and if we can work together or how it's going to work. So that's been very an interesting process. E-billing, we've got year-to-date $362,644 collected via credit card and debit card, $77,941 month-to-date in July.
Say that again, how much?
So month-to-date for July is $77,941. And year-to-date is $362,644. America First survey study meeting update. there wasn't a lot of update from them. There'll be a follow-up conference call this Friday at 11 o'clock. I don't have a call-in number yet, but I can share it on the website if anybody'd like to see it. But today there wasn't really a lot of reporting or a lot of progress discussed. I think it was just Ian got to sit in the hot seat for a little while, and more to come, I guess, is what came out of that meeting. Once again, connectivity committee update, I already gave that. And Ronald Francoeur, after 11 and a half years dedicated service to Kennebunk Light and Power, is going on to the evil empire. I said it publicly. Sorry, CMP. But yeah, Ron is he's 30. It's a 30-year-old crisis. I've talked to him as a father figure, as a brother figure, as a friend, just giving him my different perspective. And this is really, it's a question in his heart that he's had, he says, for 8 years, and he'll never know the answer until he tries. So he's going to try to go work for Central Maine Power. And I said, if you decide it didn't work and you come back and there's a spot, you're welcome back here. But I wish him the best. I understand exactly where he's at. He's at a crossroads in his life and he wants to know. So I didn't try too hard to talk him out of it because he was so talked into it. It's not a money thing. It's a...
So you advertise for that position already?
We advertise for an apprentice, and then Kevin and I are formulating what the next position is going to be. So I don't want to discuss that publicly right now as a personnel matter, but I will update the board when Kevin and I have had a chance to make our make our decision on how we're going to.
What's your timeline on getting the position filled?
I'd like to fill the position by September. Ron's leaving August 22nd, but we have Ray Marion, who is a retiree from Holyoke. I can never say it like him, Holyoke. And he's been our kind of go-to guy for about 8 or 10 years, and he's willing to cover wherever we need him. So he'll do standby shifts with Kevin. He'll come in if we're short-staffed, but we will make do until we have a new position available.
We want to get ahead of the fall storms and winter.
Absolutely. And that's all about Ron.
Quick question on that. You said it wasn't about money. Have you looked at our benefits and pay comparable to CMP and where it's...
When I say it wasn't about money, I mean he's going to make less money.
Okay. So we're still in a good spot.
We are exactly where we try to be, 75%
people
above. Yeah.
He's taking a cut in pay and a cut in benefits.
Yeah. The benefits are he's fully vested in Maine PERS, so he's got that retirement, but the benefits, it's a 401k, they don't. Okay. So yeah, we are in a much better position. It's unfortunate to see him go. He's the last one I thought would go, to be honest with you.
Item 10, board consideration of energy supply offer from Nextera and potential RFQ revisions.
Jay, you raised some interesting questions earlier about this, and the comments I wanted to tell you because I beat the hell out of them, but I bit my tongue. So you put word out there that you're doing something like this, and you're going to get a reaction. That plain and simple. And so I had a heart-to-heart with Nextera, let them know the things that I've been very unhappy about with KLPD and the things that I've been very happy about. They were very receptive to the things we're unhappy about and making some big changes organizationally in the way certain arms of the business are being run. I'm not here to sell them because that's not my job, but I can tell you that I now know why they serve municipals the way they do. And it's not only a moneymaker for them because they don't make the money they make off municipals as they do off of industrial loads. So Nextera Energy started in 2008. I might get the year wrong. No, 98. Deregulation happened and Boston Edison was scrambling. What do we do? So these 5 guys that graduated from college in Massachusetts with electrical engineering and finance degrees came to Boston Edison and said, let us try to do it for you. They did very well. They got Boston Edison in a very good position, brought their rates down considerably. Boston Edison then decided, we're going to do this ourselves. Thank you very much for the help. They went on and were courted by Florida Power and Light. So Florida Power and Light is still part of Nextera, but they're the regulated utility. So Florida Power and Light is their utility arm. Nextera Energy Resources, who we deal with, is the marketing and power supply arm. They started from municipals and they have a serious love for municipals. So the heart-to-heart conversation I had when they asked me about this RFP is I said, we don't know we're getting the best deal. We don't know we're getting the worst deal. We don't know, we're tied to full requirements supply from you, and that hamstrings us from being able to do our own incentives in district. That's pretty much all I said, other than the conversations we had about what I wasn't happy about. They came back to us with an offer, and my job is to have the best interest of the ratepayer in mind. That's the first job that or at least for me, the most responsible thing I do is to my ratepayers. They came at us with this is just 50%. So I've gotten unsolicited offers prior to the RFP, I had gotten unsolicited offers from entities that wanted to serve our load. And the ballpark was about $5,000 to $10,000 a month for the consulting fee to wheel our power. Nextera does not charge that in their rate structure. They're so large that a rounding error makes them a return on investment that we would never realize. But the pricing that they're offering us right now is, it is historically low pricing because that's the market. The market right now is low. And moving forward in what we're going to do with consulting, I think I'd have a comfort level knowing that we have 50%, 75%, whatever the board would decide is appropriate, a portion of that load locked in at a rate that is really, truly a low rate. Typically, since I've been here, we're dealing with Nextera on a reactive basis, where here's what happened, do you guys want to sign this extension? We got hosed one time, and we've been crawling out of it ever since. This is a point in time where we're not scrambling. We don't have to do anything with them, and this is why I think they have given us, I mean, they don't give us the numbers because the market dictates the energy rate, but $47.89 a megawatt hour is low, market, wholesale, commercial. It is a low rate for New England. EIA projects that moving forward, that energy rate is only going to, it's not going to drastically increase, but it's going to steadily increase due to several factors that they consider that I couldn't disseminate if I had to. That's why they're there, and that's why they do their job. 50% of our load in one scenario. Okay, currently our energy is $55.14. Our capacity is $25.40. Ancillaries are $1.60, and RECs are 60 cents. $82.74 per megawatt hour is the 100% cost. For moving forward, capacity costs are going down. Since I've started here, they've been going up. The 2021 auction closed at pretty low levels. $15.43 as opposed to $25.40 just for the capacity. That is something we can make a dent in. That is something that I have plans to provide to the board, proposals to make a big dent in that with possible battery storage and dispatching at proper times. That has come, I've been doing a lot of research on what can we do with the remainder of that 50%. So energy costs, I said 47.89, it's 47.97. I apologize there. Capacity rates are going down. 15.43 is what the estimate for 2021 is. And since the last transaction, we've been estimating our ancillaries. Is it the ancillaries, Matt? Yeah, we've been estimating those, and they estimated at about $1. The last 2 years, the board is aware that we've gotten, that's paid dividends to us. $180,000 was it last year, and 100,000 or so this year. So before they were locking everything in, and they may have been making money on those. They offered us the option to estimate, and that's what we did, and it's been beneficial to us. I feel very comfortable that now KLPD and Nextera are on the same page. They're fully supportive of either way. If we decide to not deal with them, they wish us the best of luck, and we'll end up dealing with them in the future anyway, because they get a fair amount of the standard offer in the state of Maine. I recommended the board 50% at this rate to give us a steady base to jump off from on our next phase of how we do business here at KLPD.
What's the CMP standard offer right now?
Standard offer right now is $90.03.
Double.
That can't be right. The standard offer, all-in cost after energy, capacity, and ancillaries is $90.03.
And you said this would be 82.74.
We're currently at 82.75.
Oh.
This is 40. This is
Well, if you had-
47.97. So then, I was giving you those. So right now, our total 82.74. If we were to do this, the rate would be $65.60. That would include capacity, ancillaries, and recs. That's everything.
It's $30 less than CMP.
That's correct, and it's $20, $15 less than we're paying now, and that includes recs. We could potentially, leaving 50% of our load open, leaving 25% of our load open, we can flood ourselves with green power that doesn't need to be purchased by recs. We have a bunch of different ways that we can do that, and that's what the consultant will help us navigate through the balance of our load. And I think that I can't not responsibly recommend to the board that these energy prices are really good where they are, and we're in a position for once to be able to say, yeah, this is a good rate. We're not backpedaling and trying to, blend something in that's going to work.
Okay.
And I mean,
So before we have further comments, I know Jay's going to have some stuff, but
Yep.
I just want to go back to play a little history. Back 10 years ago when I started on the board, these rates that you're talking about right now, that 47.97, that's a rate that we started off. We were just finishing out a contract with those low rates 10 years ago. So we're talking about moving our power rates back almost 10 years to where we used to be. And then the district got in trouble because we started doing all these blends. We were only buying, the board was hesitant because there was a spike at that time where power started increasing. And so the board's like, oh, it's just a little blip on the thing, on the radar, so we're only gonna buy 25% and we're gonna wait and see what happens. Well, unfortunately, we can't look into our crystal balls and see what the future is gonna be. But back then, it didn't play in our favor, and we're where we are today with our rates because the cost of power just continued to increase. And then we ended up splitting it in many different ways where over the last 8 years, we've been blending our rates with all these different costs, and it's actually cost us more money because of our hesitation. So we're at a point right now where we have an opportunity. We're talking 3 or 4 cents a kilowatt hour savings to our customers if we move today. 3 or 4 cents a kilowatt hour is a huge savings to the residential. It will help with those who may be struggling, as you mentioned earlier, Todd. We're trying to make ends meet. It's going to be a big savings to some of our commercial customers out there that have heavy loads. So I think the board needs to have a serious conversation and discussion on where we think we should be going and not let this opportunity go by. Because it's not going to stay there long. As we go into the fall, winter, the market's going to tighten up again and the rates are going to go up. And these are historic low numbers.
and things are going down in the Middle East, and I'm not a projector of energy whatsoever, but I know what the key things are now, and I think the biggest volatility right now is the Middle East. But Madison Electric Works locked in a 10-year full requirement service deal with Nextera for higher than this rate, and their customers were happy as pig and slop. It was a similar situation. General manager was leaving, rates were good, and they locked for 10 years. I'm not recommending that. I'm saying 50% for 5. And it gives us a really good cushion to.
Did they, you got the 5-year 50%, did they give you,
It would be the same rate if we went 100%, 50%, 75%, that's the rate.
number? And as far as a term, 5-year, 10-year?
5 years?
We discussed 5. They would go 10, but I didn't get I don't know what the number would be on a 10-year
Why
term.
don't you go 75% for 10 years?
Well, that's where I'm at. I'm at 75%.
Yep.
I think we should lock in at 75%. That leaves us 25% of our load. So if right now roughly we're at 20 meg service.
Yep.
And if we locked in 75%, that would use 15 meg that we would lock in
Right.
at that low rate. It would then leave us 25% of our load being 5 meg that we would then be able to look at other options, hydro, solar, other options that we know are out there right now that we could then look at filling in that other piece. Yes, we'd end up blending, but based on information we have right now, and if we wanted to go and do solar, the cost of solar is coming down as well. So the current solar farm we have right now is 8.8. The cost of solar is coming down. So even if we had to blend that little bit of 5 meg into that, it's still not going to bump that load a huge amount. So, Jay?
Oh, I have a question. I have
know
a
you
few
do.
questions. Yeah. No, I think this is pretty exciting. I just want to make sure I understand, we all understand the basic facts. Because you went through a lot of numbers fast verbally and we're not looking at a spreadsheet.
Right.
But what I think I heard you say is that the cost today of just our pure power is $55.14 a megawatt hour.
You did hear that.
And that this proposal is $47.97 a megawatt hour.
That is correct.
So that's a savings of
20, 50.
from 4.8 cents to 5.5 cents.
Yes.
So it's not even a full, I'm not dissing it, I'm just saying it's not even a full penny of savings on a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
Correct? So the other savings that Duffy was talking about, if you're talking about a new all-in cost, including all of our ancillaries of $55.60, those savings below the $82.74 we have now, that's 3 cents.
Right.
So we're getting more than 2 cents in ancillaries that we're going to get anyway. It's not part of this wholesale or energy price. Am I understanding that correctly? That the energy price itself
Yep.
is going down less than a penny, but it is going down.
That's
But
correct.
the total all-in cost would go down about 3 cents.
Correct.
But those other 2+ cents are not related to the Nextera deal. Those are forces of the market.
Those are the market forces.
So
of
those
ISO.
are going to happen anyway.
That is correct. That is
Okay,
correct.
so just,
Yeah, that is correct. And the capacity market will be able to impact in the near future, but when I started here, we thought we were going to see capacity in the $70 range. Fortunately, things have turned around and ISO has done some different things to ensure that some generators stay online because it was going to be a big problem. So yes, that we can't give credit to anybody but ISO for doing their job the way they do it.
okay. And it's good.
Yeah, it is
It's not a
very
bad
good.
thing.
No, absolutely not.
We're going to be able to,
But we
if
don't
we could
give
knock our
anybody else.
prices down 3 cents, that
Yeah.
would be good.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then what's the green portfolio of this power that they're talking about
This is the same.
at 4.8 cents?
This is the same green portfolio as we have purchased RECs that meet the state class 2 REC requirement.
Which is, what is the requirement?
30% renewables.
So this would, 30% of that would meet the class 2 record.
That's correct. And they are willing. They didn't know how this conversation was going to go, but they have been working strategies in Massachusetts and making some real Cape Power. If you've ever heard of Cape Power, they're the ones that are starting to create these deals for communities that want a greater portion of renewables. They can offer us 100% green if we want it, and we want to pay that money. But I said, that's not where we're at right now. We're in a position where we want to figure out what we want to do, but this is where we're at. But yeah, they can give us more. They can go 100. They could give us a 100% green option for certain customers that want. We just need to identify how much, how much demand there would be for those type of customers.
But we currently have 3 meg right now green for us
Yeah, in the.
on our solar farm.
Yeah.
And if we were to take, we could take that other, if we use 25%, we could look at that other 5 being,
We can bump up, I mean, it's Rex, so you can buy, we could buy ourselves to 40%, we could buy ourselves to 60%. It's just,
What's
at
that?
60 cents a rec, you want more recs, you buy more recs, so you increase your percentage. And then you get into the philosophical question of, is it better to buy them elsewhere, or do we cut our trees down? And those are conversations we're all gonna have as a board with the assistance of a consultant to figure out where KLPD needs to go to be green and do what we want to do.
So some of the things that I have seen in the international market recently leave us with some solar, for example, power rates that are, I believe, 3 cents or in that area.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we could get it for 3 cents here in Kennebunk, but it's just an indicator that that market is pretty fluid right now. And there are more ways for us to bring our costs down and get more green power, even bringing costs down through green power,
Correct.
than simply buying RECs.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, most certainly. Most certainly.
And I know that's part of why you're looking at trying to have a consultant help us think through some of these really complex issues, which I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Really asking questions. I don't.
No.
Really don't. So, but I think there's a lot to learn to make the right decision. And although this is a great price, it makes me a little nervous, especially if it's a 10-year deal, to go with even this good price of 47.97 cents, if it potentially would block us out from maybe doing our own solar or doing more hydro that could come in not only at a lower price, but also be green, that's local, meet some of our other goals of energy independence locally, and a number of other things. This is not the time to have that whole conversation, I realize, but we have had those conversations, and there's more to it than just price. But I'm not saying we should necessarily go buy a bunch of green at whatever the cost is because we should do green. I'm saying we probably could have our cake and eat it too if we put together a good long-term plan. So just we need to balance that thinking of flexibility in the future with this good deal and not lock ourselves out.
I knew you were going to ask that question, Jay. And so, 50, and you are a little more in tune with the solar industry than the other board members. I don't think anybody will deny that. And that's why I said 50 to 75 for 5 years, because in the next 5 years, I don't think we're going to be able to build 5 megawatts of solar on our own.
I would agree.
And so that's kind of where 50 to 75.
But we might make a decision to do that if it looked favorable.
Right, exactly, exactly.
I
So
agree.
that's why I took the time frame and in 10 years, could we build 50% generation in district? Probably. In 5?
No.
Not likely, because we've got a lot of other projects we're working on, so that was definitely taken into consideration.
but we're leaving 5 meg out there. If we went 75%,
Yeah.
we're leaving 5 meg on the board or on the table
Yep.
to.
And if it were 5 years rather than 10.
And I am hearing from green solar generators in Maine that are looking to sell green in Maine. And so that would become part of our mix, at least in the interim, until we determine if we're going to build it or if there's the next great thing that comes along that we're going to say, wow, that's what we'll do.
Could be hydrogen.
It could, if it was scalable.
I'm just saying.
But we've had that discussion.
I signed an NDA, that's all I can say. It was hydrogen.
I didn't. But I don't know anything.
That's so long ago.
Yeah.
Who remembers?
So I guess if I were just gonna wait.
Yeah, so do we have to make a decision
Yeah.
today?
Yeah, it's
On
time
what we
sensitive.
want.
It's the
Time
pricing is
sensitive.
time sensitive.
So what do I like the best here? I'll say 75% for 5 years,
Seems reasonable to me.
going with Nextera under this contract.
Now, obviously, we have some other things that we need to negotiate, but because we've talked about storage, we've talked about how in depth do you have to get back to these guys?
I told them if this is going to be a deal, this is going to be just for the 50%, and we can do whatever else we want. And so, but you were going somewhere else with that. Finish it, thought.
Other aspects that we have to negotiate, we've talked about,
right.
do we have, is there a requirement is there a minimum purchase requirement?
Nope, just 50%.
Okay, that's good.
Or total demand.
50% of total demand, of non-industrial total demand, because they don't currently sell Corning the power. So
How
it's
does it relate to the solar? that
The solar
we're
is-
currently buying?
It would be unchanged. The solar will be incorporated into the 10 megawatt, or the solar will be incorporated into the 50% that is being procured. So that,
I can go either way.
we didn't,
Will be?
we didn't,
Make the-
no, I'm sorry. No, I said it the other way. That 3% will be above and beyond what we
That'll
procured.
be part of the balance.
That's correct. And we don't,
So 75% of the solar would fit in that last 25%.
yeah.
And how much of the last 25% would the solar take up?
How much megawatts are they producing a year?
But it could be
That's my
also
question.
hydro.
20%.
That's why I'm asking, yeah.
That solar it's
It's 4,
3 megawatts.
wasn't it
Yeah.
something like 4% of our total demand?
Yep.
Last month it was 6.
It was 6 last month.
6.1.
Okay, so
6 megawatts?
No, 6%.
6.1%.
Okay, so that would leave us 18% of the 25% chunk, right?
Yeah.
That would be
Go wherever.
flexible. And how much is even at the maximum scale of what we could imagine this hydro producing, say it's 3,000 megawatt hours,
We won't get that. Then we'll be at 3%, 4%. That'll be 3 or 4%, so that's 10%. So we're still at 15% that we can procure however we wish. And if it comes right upriver at the prices, then we could do pretty well.
So we have a contract with who now?
Nextera.
And they're willing to just,
Yep, they're willing to restate the contract to just be 50% of our loan, and there's no shackle
For that
tied
time
to everything. Correct. For
what
the
about
5
the
years.
rest of the contract? Does that
The
continue
rest
for
of
the 5 years?
No, the rest of the contract will terminate. That, actually, what they said to me is that the current contract could terminate with
2020.
certain old terms that we don't like at the signing of this one. So all of the issues we had will go away, and none of the issues will be in that next iteration.
so we have
So
50%.
Would you feel better at 70% instead of 75%?
I don't know, maybe a
I
little
think
bit.
it was
Would
set
you?
for the 5 years.
Given that we already have the solar locked in with them as well, maybe.
Want to make a
And
motion?
with the 5-year piece being, because you think these other opportunities that
I think
coming down
so.
the road, that solar, I know
I think
solar's coming
I think
down.
Todd was right about, we're not gonna be able to fully implement even if we spend a year with a consultant over the next year and we come up with a more precise long-term plan. It's not gonna get implemented in the first 5 years. So I feel good about the 5 years. 10 years, I think, to commit to 50% of our load for 10 years, it might tie our hands. And I don't know. I mean,
It depends
I'm sorry,
upon
not
what we
50%,
want to do.
75%.
75%.
Sorry, I'm going real slow. The other 50% is coming from where? Nextera too?
Nope, wherever we can come from Nextera if they're the best price, but it can come from anywhere.
Okay, but right now, we're getting it from,
Right now, 100% is Nextera.
okay.
Yeah,
Except for our own hydro.
that's correct. They net meter our hydro and our
Solar.
charging station.
The solar we're actually
Yeah, we
buying
buy
from
from them.
Nextera. And I don't think we actually can count that as part of our green portfolio,
We can't.
can we?
No,
Because
we didn't buy the
I mean,
recs.
we can count it, but
We can say
legally it doesn't count because they sold the recs.
We don't have Rex retired in our name from that facility.
So coming back, if we did the 75%, that left 25% on, which is roughly 5 meg. But then you were talking a percentage that it's only actually
It's
a
less.
smaller percentage of that.
Right, because if you take in the
If you have 25% that we're holding out
Yeah.
during the next
Which
5
is
years.
5 megs.
Which is, okay, 5 megs. So that, of that 25%, 1/6 of that is what we're also obligated to buy from Nextera on the power purchase agreement for the solar. So that leaves us 5/6 of that remaining.
yeah.
And if something happens with hydro such that we're actually getting 3,000, another
Right.
If we're doing,
another 4%, then we're down to 3/6 of that remaining, and sorry to fractions.
so half of that remaining,
Yeah, half of the remaining.
yeah,
Thank you.
is 12.5% that we can,
Have some flexibility
Yeah.
with in the first 5 years. Does that make sense?
he's thinking
Of
long.
the 25%,
Right.
half of it is actually available to us because of our hydro and solar.
So you're
commitments.
roughly talking 2.5 meg
Yeah.
would be available to do something else
Right.
in that 5 years.
In that 5-year window. Which might be enough, but it wouldn't be enough over 10 years.
Not
I
over
would
10,
guess.
no, I would agree with that.
I mean, you could do it in Madison Electric, remember they did it in stages,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Right,
And,
because we could
so
do
they had
another
something
solar
online.
farm or
Right.
hydro or whatever for that other 2.5
We
meg.
could.
So you could get 2.5 meg if you did it in stages, and then after the 5 years, say you want to put another big, then that comes online.
Right. So then in 5 years, we're back to square one.
Right.
And then we see where we're at, see where the market is, who knows where we'll
And
be in 5 years.
what are we gonna produce after that?
Yeah. And
That line.
batteries or storage might fit in there somewhere
Somebody's
as
getting a
well,
call.
which could give us some time of use. And this, I assume, doesn't deal with that question, which is
No,
paying a rate that's based on the time of use.
but my response
And
to
if
that,
that's restricted, then that takes a whole possibility off the table.
I anticipate your questions often, Jay. We worked close together for a long time.
We've discussed them all in the
Right,
board
right.
meeting, so
Yeah,
I'm sure
so
you
we're
do.
doing five years. To do time of use rates, we have to revamp our entire metering system, because
Right.
I have done that homework. And so
Okay.
that
It's another
gives us,
10-year project.
we've got new metering, and now we can consider time of use. So that 5 years gives us a comfort
Okay.
zone to be able to implement a lot of things.
Okay, and I mean, just to be clear, I asked the questions, I
Oh,
don't
no.
know the answers to those.
What year, this would go from 2020 to 2025?
2021, so January 1, 2021
Oh, we go
through December
2026.
30th of 2025. So 5 full years, because it starts in January and December.
So,
Dan?
Back it down 5%, back to about 70, just to get some more there.
Do you feel we need that wiggle room?
I-
In the first 5
I would
years?
I would be okay with it, but I'm not pushing for it. I'm more concerned about not having it go 10 years.
when your hydro would all be locked in, you know where
Bless you.
you stand there after 5 years.
We will
And
know by then.
you would have a couple of years to decide where you want to go, with whatever else
Yeah, you would.
you want to do. And you'd also have time to, if you wanted to break ground and go online then right after the 5 years.
Yeah. I'll go down on the 70%. That would allow us essentially, if we thought we could get
70,
another
yeah.
3 meg solar station going, it was even
No.
if, then that would work, or something else with hydro or
Just
something.
leave ourselves open.
A little bit more.
I don't know, that's why I said 70%. Do you want to feel more
I
comfortable
would,
with 70?
I would.
70?
Okay, there's a motion at 75, so I guess you gotta dispose of that motion or amend
That's just,
yours.
I withdraw the motion.
Okay.
I'll make a new motion.
Yep.
New motion
Very
that
emotional.
we contract with Nextera for 70% for 5 years.
I'll second that.
At the 47.97 rate.
Yes.
That's the rate, right?
47.97.
97.
94? 97.
Unless they want to give it
94,
less.
97,
while you're talking.
47.97.
It goes in effect when?
That would,
Tomorrow?
we'll sign it tomorrow, but it'll go into effect, well, it'll go into effect immediately, but the power won't be delivered until this, January 1st of 2000.
Can you talk them down anymore?
I can try. I tell them we can't go up, but you gotta go down, and if I come back in with $5 more off,
If you get it, then good.
don't say it.
When does the other 2+ cents of the ancillaries kick in?
2021. The lower rate?
No,
The ancillaries you talked about
all-
going down.
all the ancillary costs to the energy cost, 2+ cents of those savings that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
That get us from 82.74 now to 55.60 in the future.
Yep.
When does the 55.60 kick in?
The 6560. Not 5560.
Okay, 65.60.
Yeah, when does that kick in? That's for 2021. So we know energy capacity currently through 2020 and then 2021 is where that would go down.
So capacity, RNS, LNS, all of those, we won't see those changes you were talking about until 2021.
Well, no, we see them. I'll have to get you a copy of our current contract because there's a schedule of,
Yeah.
they are auctioned and they are set. So they're set for 2020. I just don't have that number with me. The 2019 number is fit 2540. I know next year's is lower than that. I don't know the exact number. That'll be 2020, and then 2021 it'll be 1543.
So
Okay.
when our
Yeah,
power rate.
one other question with this. Do you anticipate any more power being required for the district in the next 5 years?
Good question.
Oh,
It's
They're all
going,
going-
I always
We're
expect
going
more.
between 18 and 20.
Yeah, I mean, we always
Do you think it's
anticipate
gonna go
1.5%. If this new economic development director's worth his weight in gold, then we might see a big demand, but, I mean, we could potentially, there's
Any
potential
big
for anything.
factories or something coming in?
Yeah, we don't have any big factories, but we got a lot of development, and it's starting, we used to say development doesn't really make a difference. Well, it's starting. Elton Wells Branch and those areas that
Right.
it's focused development is
Right.
starting to make a difference, so.
Well,
I don't know anybody, huge manufacturers that are coming in, but we could.
how much more power are they using down at Route 1 with the new building?
NCT.
More.
I
mean,
don't
that's
know
got a
that.
third of
Yeah, I'd have to
third of
look
the
into
day.
that.
They
I don't think
increased a
they've
third.
occupied the new addition yet that they just put on. They're still,
They're still finishing it.
right.
Yeah, I can
And
track
that-
down.
That'll
that's
be
a
coming
third
online this
building,
year.
at least a third more.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
so I don't want to belabor this, but I am confused. And-
Okay.
And it's a big number we're talking about for
Yep.
a long period of time, so
Yep.
I'd like to make sure I understand it.
Yeah,
So I believe you did say our current cost is 82.74 cents a megawatt hour total.
Correct.
all in,
All in.
yes, all in. That will continue
and
through
you com-
2020.
Through 2020. And you compared that
Yes,
to another number, which I wrote down as $55.60 all in with the new deal, but you
I
said
think you
it's
heard
65.
me. Yes,
$65.60 with the new deal. And when would that, how did you calculate that number if these things are all happening in the future, but the new rate is going to be tomorrow?
Well, no, it won't be our rate tomorrow. That'll be locked in tomorrow. I misspoke there. So
Okay.
that 65.60
Yes.
is the locked-in rate tomorrow for 50% of our load in 2020.
Beginning in 2020, at the
Beginning in
end of our
2020.
current
Yeah, I
contract.
didn't do any,
Technically,
because you
it's
get into the
2021.
blend and extends, they would have offered
Okay.
immediate rate reduction, but I don't, then you skew what the future looks like.
I get it now. So
Yeah.
65.60 is the number.
In 2020.
So the stuff I was spouting earlier about it's more than 3 cent savings.
It's more than 2.
It's not. It's more than 2 cent savings. Almost half of which is coming from their power rate reduction.
Correct.
Energy
Correct.
rate.
And if
Okay.
I put it into simple form, to me, it's, actually that number is .06566 kilowatt hour.
Yes. Yeah, we speak
Right.
megawatt hours, but yes, it's
Okay.
6.5
That's
cents,
right.
6.56 cents a kilowatt hour.
Correct.
And that starts 2020.
6.56.
So, but that's 656 all in.
All in, that's everything.
2000.
And we're
But
looking
currently, we're at
70%.
13.
Oh, no, okay, hang on. So all in supply, we still charge
Right,
delivery.
we do delivery.
So you'd go to, we're at 13.8 now, we'd be at 11 and some change by that point. Everything else
So
remaining
take the
constant.
delivery out, what's our all in?
All in right now for us?
No, yeah,
80
Without the 2 cents of delivery.
8274 is the all-in with all the extras, but not our charges. So that's not the
Correct.
state efficiency main, that's not delivery,
right.
that's just the energy cost.
And our delivery is a little over 2 cents.
Correct.
so we're looking at 2.25 less.
Yes,
All in.
yes, all in.
Delivery
And that
doesn't
starts
change?
2020.
Well, it doesn't, we don't pay CMP delivery. So our delivery, if we don't have any rate increases, the delivery won't change. And then so that, all else remaining constant, it goes from the current rate of, well, our delivery is what our delivery is. Efficiency, all those added costs that the state of Maine and we provide, those are flexible because we may have a rate increase, we may have a rate decrease, but the energy itself would stay at that rate.
One more clarifying point. You said 5 years this would give us to figure things out.
Mhm.
It's actually going to give us 6 years.
Correct.
Because it's 2019 and it doesn't happen till 2020.
Harkening back to the night I woke up in the middle of the night thinking that we're running out of power.
Okay.
I'll never forget that night, Jay.
I just want to make sure I understand it. Okay.
So we're looking at, if, moving forward, we have the motion on the floor right now. We're looking at the potential of a 2.25 cent reduction in our rate from what we're currently spending, which
Yes.
would go into effect January 1st, 2021.
Correct.
On 70%.
Yes.
of the
On 70%, that's the motion
Yep.
right now. And that's leaving roughly 30% of our load out there that we have to decide what we're going to do.
Yes.
And depending on what we find and how we deal with that, it could also bring an additional reduction
Correct.
based on how we structure that and what the rate is that we get to.
Absolutely.
Because we'll blend that into that rate, so we could pass on an additional savings over
And
time.
we have a good 16 months to watch the market to see what, and a lot of things can happen, but there might be a local sweetheart deal, or there are plenty that we'll be watching to make sure. And even though Nextera is not, they know that 30% isn't theirs, they'll still be keeping an eye out and letting us know if signals come where it's a good time. But they would speak to the
If
consultant.
we could
at
get
that
it
point.
less than the 4.7, and
Yeah, then we'd be in really good shape.
So is that part of, you get the motion?
the motion's already on the table and
Yep.
it's been seconded.
You just summarized it.
We're 70%.
Yeah,
That
70.
we're looking to lock in the 70% for 5 years. And then the other 30%, the board will pursue how we're going to do that. With this motion, we're looking at an estimated 2.25% or 2.25 cents
Yes.
savings to the rate payers effective January 1st, 2021.
That's correct.
And we could see a bigger savings depending on what we do with that other 30%, which we have time to figure that out. But I think this is a win-win
Yeah.
for everyone. Not too often can we say that the prices are going down on something
At this point.
at this point of, right.
So, do we also need to address any authority that Todd may need? If we're going to just lock in the price and you're not going to deal with anything else in the contract,
Correct.
then that's fine.
Yes.
But you are going to have to extend the contract beyond its current term, or extend the term of
Yeah.
this pricing.
I
And
will
you
not
said there
do
were a
that.
number of other things that you wanted to get fixed when it goes forward.
Well,
So what are you actually, how are you going to lock in this rate on a contract that expires at the end of 20?
it'll be an independent contract.
Oh, I see.
So I'm dealing with issues in the old contract that came to light that I've been discussing with
Okay.
them, but in the new contract, none of that will be included. This will be a completely independent contract beginning. It'll be between us now, but it will begin then, and it will be for the 70% strip and no
But
more.
we'll have a bunch of terms and conditions in addition to the
So
price.
will you
Yes.
be able to give us all that so we can vote on
Yep.
it?
Uh,
Final,
No, this will be the final vote.
this is the final vote.
So in essence, we're empowering you and our attorney to work out the fine print in
Absolutely.
the contract.
We're entrusting you.
Yes.
I've been through one of them.
It's your job.
It is. Yeah.
One way or the other, it's your job.
Come hell or high water.
Good.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Everyone's clear on the motion?
You have an attorney look over this?
Already have,
Yes.
to make sure there's nothing sneaky going on.
Todd, can you?
He's the right guy.
Yeah,
Todd's
he
the
is.
guy. It's good advice.
That's good.
Get a deal on this?
I hope so.
From Todd?
We might get an invite to the Christmas party.
All right, any other comments, questions before we move the vote? All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Thank
Good
you
job,
very
Todd.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nice work getting that done.
Hey, thanks for driving me to do it. You were kind of the impetus for the questions, and I think we've done well by them.
Okay, we are at item 11, public comment. Do we have any comments from the public?
You're gonna save us money?
I'm trying. That's
Say
the
something
job.
nice.
1.25 cents?
Yeah, I'll weigh in on the my thoughts as you were going through that. Whenever you see a really good deal, you always think, is this too good to be true? And so my first question is, counterparty risk as to how strong is Nextera, or are they just acting as a broker and buying it? How strong is the other side so that we don't get, if we have like a shock in the Middle East, or are they suddenly gonna, someone go belly up and then we're on mercy of the free market? How does this work?
There's surety bonds, they require the same thing of us that we require of them, and so their bond rating is phenomenal, their liquid capital position is phenomenal, and they have weathered these storms, and they will in the future.
And is 5 years a typical contract period that you've generally, that the board has done in the past?
Yes. We've done extension after extension, but...
Right, and then the other comment I'd have is, you know, you're concerned about how much would be green or not green, but I think I would point out that if green energy prices were to drop a lot, it's quite conceivable that Nextera would start sourcing a lot of their portfolio. So even if we did not, as the board or Kennybunk, run the show, you'd still be getting more green power. On the other hand, if it doesn't and it goes through the roof, then you know you have the option. So I think it's a good percentage to get. And the only other comment is early in you were talking about delinquent accounts. I remember a couple of years ago, a woman from Ohio next door to where I was working said to me, "I'm moving out of here. I can't afford to live in Kennybunk anymore." And if you look nationally, I thought I saw something the other day that 74% of the population could not afford to buy their own house that they're in right now at the price. I mean, you know, there's a lot of prices, and you know, I don't care what the government says about inflation, food, and energy. I know it seems that food's gone up a lot. It still keeps going up. It's a few cents here, it's a few cents there, but you know, when it all comes to pass,
Yep.
you know, people can only do what they can do. So.
One question. Did you mention that Nextera is involved or coordinate with Florida Power and Light?
So Nextera owns the organization Nextera. One subsidiary is Florida Power and Light.
Because they've been very good in Florida.
They really have.
Really, really good.
And the other arm of that came in to assist Florida Power and Light in procuring energy when deregulation happened.
Right.
And then this organization was formed, and Nextera is the largest owner-operator of renewable resources in the world. They have a lot of solar, wind, hydro. They have a lot of, well, they divested from hydro, but they've got a lot of renewables.
Last 2 years I've raised about that. Business.
Doesn't Florida Power and Light own CMP?
Nope, they do not.
Yeah,
Albert?
with respect to Central Maine Power and the dollars per kilowatt hours that we were talking about last meeting, wouldn't it be advantageous for us to get our hydropower online so that we get the benefit of every kilowatt we're generating in hydropower for that CMP bonus?
There's no benefit yet.
Yeah,
Right, and we're working to get those. One of them we're working to get running. The other one, short of a rewind, it's going to stay dead in the water.
yeah, we had an interesting conversation with Ian. At the same time, I understand that the FERC license requires the 3 dams to be operational. Is that correct?
They're not required to be operational if there's issues that are being addressed. So we do not have, all it is a form. We submit a form to FERC, say we're not going to run Tesla anymore, but we haven't done that because we had tried an experiment, it didn't work. We're doing the same at Twine Mill. We don't have to repair anything. We can let FERC know through a form that this is why this facility will not generate.
Well, there are certain dangers in that. If America First Hydro only wants to operate Twine Mill and Dane Perkins, it'll be KLPD's responsibility to decommission Kessler. Because we cannot reapply for a license because we've...
That's correct, we cannot
Okay.
reapply for a license.
Okay. There's a huge risk there. So I would certainly encourage us to research getting Kesslin online.
Here.
Peter?
I've talked with people who are elderly and they're saying should they get a generator, etc. My cousin is one of those facing that situation. And it seems that the proliferation of home generators maybe will show that there's an opportunity for battery storage in conjunction with the power company, and the power company could draw a certain percentage like you did with the hot water heater situation. And I wondered if anyone has investigated that. Have you seen any reports on it? Or that way all of the houses in, well, a percentage of the houses in town could have battery storage that would last them X amount of hours while a tree was fixed or whatever. They would never really lose their power because they had it in-house. But in the time in between, everybody says, well, there, you've got all that money tied up in a battery storage. That is the time when the light company may pull on that battery storage for peaking or load or whatever, a surge on the grid for some reason or other. It seems like an interesting avenue to look into.
ISO's got some interesting programs right now, and I've actually been doing some homework on peakers, right, and battery peak reduction, but I hadn't thought about it that way, Peter. I don't know how many generators we have deployed in the system, but that's an interesting way to think of it.
Can we find out the answer to that? How many generators people have deployed? I think it's interesting too.
We could take tons of computers and
It would
combine
save
them.
people fooling around with gasoline, propane at home and all of those associated anxieties, especially as they get elderly.
Yep. I get
Good idea.
that is very interesting. Thank you for bringing that up, Peter, because I will look into that.
And I have a tiny question. You said that on our bond rating that
Yes.
they put down because you didn't have a large enough commitment to Nextera. You tell you just voted on it
Well,
for the future? Give us-
I
give us
know,
that-
well,
give
next
us
year,
another
hopefully that'll
plus.
be to our benefit, but yeah, it was not, well, it was expressly spelled out that.
And tell them we just did a vote.
Ask them if we want an amendment. Can we
We want
appeal
an
that
amendment.
decision?
Yeah.
They give us 2 hours from when they send us, from when they finish their idea, they send it to us. We have 2 hours to get back to them, and it can only be confidential information that needs to be removed or spelling errors. Nothing factual. So it's like, okay, so you're gonna send it to me, give me 2 hours to read it. I'll find all kinds of things wrong with it, but I can't tell you because I can only say you spelled Kennybug wrong.
Beverly, you only get one telephone call.
That's what I was wondering. That's what I thought. Tell them.
It's true, yeah.
We immediately did this because of what you said. Tell them.
What say you?
Yes, yes, that we.
I'll give 'em a call.
Reacted to what you wanted.
Like Pavlov's dogs.
Any other public comment?
Thanks, guys, for all you do, sir.
Thank
And
you.
thanks to the management team that you have here, doing an excellent job.
you.
And you're more than adequate.
He was watching you count the beans.
No, really, you guys did an excellent job.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
It's good to have a cheerleader.
No, thank you guys.
So our next meeting is September 24th, and then after that, we're scheduled for October 29th.
Yes, sir.
No August meeting.
No August.
There is no August meeting. I know I will not be here October 29th. I'll be on vacation.
Okay, so
You've got April vice president.
Right.
so in
Be
September,
in Aruba.
if we can discuss it at the September meeting, and if it's going to become a quorum issue, then we can try to move the date or move it anyway. Yep.
Dan, did you have something?
Yeah, I just want to comment on, and the people that work out in the field, I think do a wonderful job.
Yep.
The workers out. in
Yeah, our
the
crew,
field.
the guys out in the wood, out in the field, they do a great job.
I do.
They
Do you
make
think
us
so
look
when it's
good.
90 degrees out?
I think so.
Hey, I've been there, buddy. Yes, I agree with you.
I think their job's
But
easier when
these
it's
guys are
90 degrees.
here, and you need somebody with pictures to make things happen. And yes, the dubs that actually, I used to write things on pieces of paper, And then there were
Yeah.
people that actually did things.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Have a good night.
Thanks, Bill. Does the board want to recap our executive session? Do we want to go back into executive session to recap that, or
I
where we're
think
not
just
meeting
for
again
5
until
minutes, can we do it for 5 minutes?
Well, I'd like to go in just to recap where we're not going to be meeting again until September.
Yeah. We can do that. I'm use the boys'
I'd
room.
like to.
I'll shut the camera
All
off.
right. So at this point, we're going to conclude our regular business meeting, and we're going to go back into a short executive session. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.